When I saw 59 missed calls from my parents, I didn't feel panic, I felt peace. Because for once, they needed me, and I wasn't picking up. My name is Lena Wells, and I grew up being the family scapegoat, the one who almost got expelled in 10th grade, the one who dated the wrong guy, the one who made questionable choices, as my mother liked to say at every holiday dinner. But what they never said out loud, what they would never admit, is that I was also the one who bailed them out more times than I can count. My parents, Margot and Charles Wells, were always polished. Country club members active in charity events posed family photos on Facebook. The kind of couple people called goals if you didn't look too closely. Behind closed doors, they were drowning in debt, bad real estate investments, gambling issues my dad swore he had under control, a credit card lawsuit that got quietly swept away with my help. I had a decent job in tech, nothing flashy but stable. I saved, I invested smart, and the moment they caught wind of that, the favors began. "It's just a short-term loan, sweetheart. We'll pay you back as soon as Dad's bonus hits. You wouldn't let your family lose their home, would you?" I said yes, again and again, because that's what family does, right? But money wasn't the only thing they wanted to control. They wanted silence, shame, obedience. Even after all I'd done, I was still the one whispered about when I left the room. Still the one excluded from group photos. Still the one they told distant cousins was off working somewhere out of state when I was sitting right there. And the worst part, I tolerated it, because somewhere deep down I still hoped I'd be accepted again, that I could earn my way back into the family if I just gave enough. 2 years ago, my parents came to me in a panic. They were finalizing a deal, a massive land development project, but the bank required a co-signer for a $3 million business loan. "Just a formality," they said. "You're not on the hook for anything. It's all legal, all safe." I read every line of that contract. I asked questions, I hesitated, but I also wanted to believe they wouldn't betray me like that. So I signed. That day they hugged me tighter than they had in years, and I told myself, maybe now they'll see me differently. I was wrong. Last month I saw a photo online. My cousin posted it, a group shot at the annual family reunion. A picnic by the lake, laughter, tables of food, and not a single word to me about it. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Had I just not been invited? I called my mom's phone. No answer. I tried again, then my dad's, straight to voicemail. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "Lena, it might be better if you sat this one out. It's just complicated with everything right now." No apology, no explanation, just don't come. That was it for me. Years of funding, of forgiveness, of sitting silently while they erased me from the family tree. And they still saw me as the black sheep. Still treated me like a stain on their perfect image. I didn't cry. I didn't respond. Instead, I called a lawyer. It took some time, but since I had co-signed the $3 million loan, I had certain rights, especially given they had violated several agreed-upon terms about communication and reporting. And more importantly, I hadn't personally borrowed the money. They had. With careful navigation, I was able to legally remove myself from liability, an option buried deep in the contract that my father had probably never read. It required formal filings and once done, transferred all responsibility to them. I did it quietly, Didn't announce it, didn't gloat. But 36 hours later, I woke up to 59 missed calls. Voicemails from my mother sobbing, my father yelling, texts full of apologies, explanations, urgent pleas to call back. I turned my phone on silent, sat down at the kitchen table, and ate breakfast in peace for the first time in years. When you stop being useful to people who only took from you, you find out how quickly they remember your name. The first voicemail was from my mother. Her voice cracked and trembled. "Lena, honey, I didn't mean that text the way it sounded. We were just trying to protect you from drama. You know how tense the family's been. Please call me back." Then my father's voice, sharper. "What did you do? Do you have any idea what kind of mess you've caused? We trusted you." The irony nearly made me laugh. They trusted me to save them, but not to sit at the reunion table. By Monday morning, the apology tour was in full swing. They sent flowers to my office, an edible arrangement to my apartment. My mom left a voice message every 2 hours on the dot, always ending with, "You're our daughter, Lena." None of this matters compared to that. But it did matter. It had always mattered. I wanted to believe they cared. I really did. But I'd seen this pattern before. Push me out, use me, pull me back in when they needed something. That weekend, I heard a knock at my door. It was my father, unannounced, exhausted looking, still in his blazer from church. "I just want to talk," he said, holding up his hands like I was a wild animal. "About what? The loan? Or the fact you told your friends I moved out of state? Again?" He sighed. "Lena, I'm not proud of that, but it wasn't meant to hurt you." He stepped inside before I invited him, sat down like he owned the place. "Look, sweetheart, the business is fragile right now. You removing yourself, it triggered a review, the bank's pulling funding. We're about to lose everything." I stood still. "And when you thought you were about to lose me, Penny, where was all this concern then?" He looked up, but he didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a manila envelope. "We were going to tell you this eventually." Inside was a trust document. My name wasn't on it. "What is this?" "We restructured the family assets last year for tax reasons. You cut me out. You'd been distant. We didn't know what your plans were." Rage burned through my chest. "I co-signed a $3 million loan. I was never distant. I was just excluded." He reached out. "We can fix this." I stepped back. "You already showed me my place. Now I'm showing you yours." The next day, my mother called and begged me to come to dinner. "Just the three of us," she said. "No drama, no tricks. I just want my daughter back." I agreed, not because I was ready to forgive, but because I wanted answers. We sat in the same dining room I grew up in, the same plates, the same candle holders, but the people across from me, they felt like strangers. "We're sorry," my mom said, voice quivering. "We got scared. You were always the strong one. We didn't know how to talk to you anymore. So you erased me?" "We panicked," she whispered. After dinner, I went upstairs to use the restroom. As I passed the guest room, I noticed the door was ajar. Inside was my old childhood desk, still covered in boxes. And on top of those boxes, an open email printout. I stepped closer. It was from their lawyer. Subject line: "How to reinstate loan signature via forgery if daughter refuses to cooperate." My heart stopped. They hadn't just pushed me away. They had been planning to trap me. I took the email and left. Didn't say goodbye, didn't look back. By the time I got home, I had blocked both their numbers, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly free, but I wasn't done. Because they had crossed a line I couldn't ignore, and I was going to make sure they never crossed it again. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When they show you again, burn the bridge. The email in my hand shook, but my heart didn't. They weren't just manipulative. They were planning to forge my signature if I refused to help. I took photos, sent copies to my attorney, and by the next morning I'd filed a preemptive declaration with the loan bank, the fraud division, and 3 regulatory agencies, but I wasn't done. Because they hadn't just betrayed me. They were about to lose everything, and they needed someone to blame. Not this time. I hired a forensic accountant, cost me more than I wanted to spend, but it was worth it. Within 2 weeks, I had a report in hand. Your parents have moved over $500,000 offshore in the past 18 months, the investigator told me. They've disguised it under fake vendors, dummy LLCs, and unregistered trusts. I blinked. Why would they hide money if they were struggling? He tilted his head. Maybe they weren't struggling at all. Buried in the accountant's report was something worse. They had named my younger cousin as the new beneficiary on the trust. The golden child, the perfect daughter they always wished I had been. I called my cousin. Did you know my parents named you as a beneficiary? There was a pause. Yeah, Aunt Margot said it was just a formality, because you were so busy with your tech work. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I smiled through the phone. Well, things are about to change. I filed an anonymous tip to the IRS fraud line, attached everything, the trusts, the false vendor names, the offshore wiring reports. Then I sent the same packet to the bank that issued the loan. The fallout was immediate. Their accounts were frozen for review. The business loan came under investigation, and within days the local newspaper ran a story. Family behind Wells Property Group faces financial scrutiny. That evening I got an email from my mother. Subject line, please talk to us. You've made your point, Lena, we're sorry. But this is our reputation at stake. Can't we settle this quietly? I didn't respond, because they never cared about me. Just their reputation. A week later, I got a knock on my door. It was my aunt, the one I hadn't spoken to in years. She handed me a box. This was from your grandmother. I think she meant for you to have it. Inside was a stack of handwritten letters. One stood out, a note from my grandmother to my parents. Don't cut Lena out. She's the only one who ever stood on her own 2 feet. Tears pricked at my eyes. Even after death, she saw me. Digging further, I realized this wasn't just about me. My parents had taken money from multiple family members under the guise of safe investment, including elderly relatives, widows, even a disabled uncle who trusted them blindly. So I took one final step. I gathered every victim, every paper trail, every single deposit record, and I handed it to a journalist. 2 weeks later, the headline dropped. Power couple accused of family Ponzi scheme. Daughter blows the whistle. And for the first time in my life, it was my face in the family photo. Not on the edges, but front and center. Holding the truth. They used to look through me at every family event. But now, they can't talk about our name without thinking of mine. The article changed everything. Suddenly, my name wasn't the one they whispered in shame. It was the one they couldn't avoid. News outlets picked up the story within hours. My inbox flooded with messages, some from distant family, some from total strangers, and many from women who said the same thing. I was always the black sheep too. My parents tried to downplay it, released a vague statement about miscommunication and administrative oversight. But the damage was done. The bank revoked their loan. The IRS launched a full audit. Half their assets were frozen, their charity board seats dissolved, and every single person they once used for status started stepping away. Fast. I didn't plan to see them again, but they requested a mediation session, not in court, but at their lawyer's office. I walked in calm. They looked like shadows of themselves. My father was the first to speak. "Lena, this has gone too far." I didn't respond. "You've destroyed your own parents' name." I leaned forward. "Number. You did that. I just told the truth." My mother tried a softer route. "We know we made mistakes, but we're family. We were scared. You have no idea how much pressure we were under." I stared at her. "And what about the pressure you put on me? Do you even remember what you texted before the reunion?" She flinched. "You didn't even have the decency to lie. You meant it. You didn't want me there because I didn't fit the picture." Well, now I am the picture. They offered me a settlement, hush money essentially, to sign a non-disclosure and back away from the investigation. I slid the envelope back across the table. "You paid me in shame for years. I'm not taking your money now." I stood calm. "Don't call me again." And I walked out. Life after exposure wasn't easy. There were messy interviews, uncomfortable questions, a lot of explaining to do, even to friends I thought already knew the truth. But for the first time, I lived without fear of being cut off, because I had cut them off. I was free. I moved to a new apartment, kept the same job, same coffee shop, same quiet routines. But I wasn't the same. I held my head higher. Weeks later, I received a package from the lawyer handling my grandmother's estate. Inside was a letter in her handwriting. "To Lena, the one they never deserved. You were always my favorite, not because you followed rules, but because you followed your heart. They feared your strength, that's why they tried to break it." I wept. For all the years I spent thinking I had to earn love, for all the moments I settled for scraps, and for the woman I had finally become. That year I hosted my own version of the reunion. Not a lakeside barbecue, just dinner with friends who had stood by me. We clinked glasses to family you choose. Someone asked what I'd learned most from all of it. I smiled and said, "When you stop proving yourself to people who'll never see your worth, you finally start living." They used me. They erased me. They underestimated me. But in the end, I was the one holding the pen, and I rewrote our story.